Hey folks, and welcome to the Pipnotic Symposium for the 13th of May 2020. Today I am going to start out by doing an analysis for a dear friend who has some interest in Brazil. And so we will start on the Euro-Brazil Real chart. Okay, so this is a longer term chart. We are looking at monthly data, which means that each one of these little bars here and here, this is 1 month of trading. So this is all the historical data we have. And notice that we don't have anything that goes back further than this date, so around maybe 2002.5, so maybe halfway through 2002. We don't have any historical reference points of price points that are higher than where we currently are, which is telling us that we're at an all-time high. So the euro relative to the Brazilian real has never been this high. Okay, so that's an interesting situation to be in. And so in a situation like this, if you're holding euros and you wish to convert them to Brazilian reals, I mean, obviously this is a good time because it's never been as good a time as now. But if you're looking for confirmation, for example, you would like to see if the euro is going to appreciate further relative to the real, well, then you should wait for confirmation. And currently, looking on this chart, I mean, there's no reason to think that this is not going to continue for a little while. Often when price does something like this, when price moves up this strongly, so quickly, I mean, this is 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 months of very, very strong push higher in the euro. We want to see signs that this is going to slow down. So if we go down to a smaller time frame, which is what is required, then maybe we can see the beginning of a change in trend. So I'm going to go to the daily chart. So now we go from a time where we had, or a chart where we had each bar representing 1 month of trading. Now we have a chart where each bar represents 1 day of trading. And you can see now that we have a high here, we have a high here. Last time the price was up here, we moved down very forcefully, and then price came up to here, to this price point here, and then we had a rejection, but price is not slowing down. And so in a situation like this, I mean, I would wait for confirmation before I do anything else. So if I just draw this, let me change the color so it's visible. Let's do this in green. So we have, I'm just going to draw this over here. So we have price kind of moving higher. We had the first rejection, and then price went higher. We had another rejection, and now price is moving sideways. I mean, ideally, what we can do is that we can connect these. Oh, that wasn't very nice. We can connect these bottoms here, and we can wait for price to start to break down. And the way we normally refer to price breaking down is that we use something called a trend line, which is essentially where you connect the bottoms of price levels like so. And price is breaking down once this trend line breaks, but we can't see that yet. So there's no indication that this is going to stop. We want to wait and see for this to break down before we can make any intelligent trading decisions. But currently, I mean, price is continuing to move higher, and so I would certainly wait exchanging my euros for Brazilian reals until we start to see price breaking down. If you're in a hurry to change your euros to reals, then I think now's a good time because we've never been this high, and so you're going to get a very good price. So you're going to be able to get a lot of reals for euros. But if you're patient, maybe this is going to continue to move higher. But as I mentioned, currently there's nothing to do. So I mean, if I had some euros and I was looking to maybe buy a house in Brazil, and I was going to buy that house maybe in half a year or a year, then I would certainly wait maybe another month just to see what happens. If we go back to the monthly chart, I mean, just to see what happens. If we see price move up, continue to close higher, to move higher, then I would wait. But if you're in a hurry, do it now. If you're not, then you can wait another few weeks, another month, another 2 months, and then we can have another look at that stage. Right, so let's have a look at my charts. And as you can see, I mean, we're out of all of our positions. All these positions have closed out. So if we have a look at those, we have the Swiss franc, where I Swiss franc Japanese yen. This is a beautiful trade. Worked out very nicely. Got in here, we got out here. Price went a little bit higher. If we have a closer look at this, you can see that when we got in at the lows here, exactly at the lows. Price respected those lows, and then we started to move higher, and we got out here. So just the beginning of this little area here. Okay, price poked into that area, we pulled back, we moved through it, and now we're kind of figuring out what we want to do. But note as well, just below the area of this 4-hour supply that we did accumulate, but price didn't do anything. I mean, price removed this small child, this continuation pattern, and then it's kind of having a bit of a difficult time closing above this area of opposing supply here. So for the time being, I'm thinking this is going to maybe continue higher for a little while, also because we do have currency strength divergence happening at historical area over here to the left, which you can't see on this time frame. And so I'm thinking this is probably going to continue to wriggle higher and away from here. So we'll have to wait and see. Again, on this chart, I mean, we're looking for verification and confirmation that this is going to break down at this area here. And looking at this chart, I mean, there's no reason to think that this is not going to continue to move higher. If we have a look on the smaller time frame, let me remove all of these objects. We have a look here, you can see that we've actually entered a buy zone. Okay, so we had a really strong push higher. The slingshot was pulled back to here. We had a very small area of demand. Oops. Here. This is where price tested. Okay, so price went a little bit deeper than the slingshot, and now we're moving higher. And so, yeah, I mean, this could continue to move higher. Okay, we don't know yet. We had a very strong rejection here on the weekly chart at a weekly buy zone, and so I mean this would lead me to believe at least that the flows are slowly going to move higher. And when I say slowly, I mean slowly. That means that price is going to probably do this for a few weeks, go up and down, retest, maybe have a push through the lows before it figures out what it's going to do. But looking at this, looking at where price stopped and how it stopped, we had a very big rejection. I'm thinking that we're probably going to move higher from here. We'll have to wait and see. But that was a pretty interesting trade. It was a 4-hour trade, and so you don't hold on to 4-hour trades forever. But what you can do is when they line up nicely with these weekly areas, I mean, that just gives confirmation that perhaps it would be a good idea to get out. Sorry, to leave a slice of the trade in. And we did slice it up into a few pieces, and we took the majority off at the first take profit, and then we left the rest in, and we took that off a little bit later for slightly more profits, but a few more pips. But I think we got, if we have a look at what we got, I think we got about, we got roughly 100 pips and 100 plus pips on the other half of that position. So pretty interesting trade. Good. So if we look now at what we are dealing with, let's have a look at currency strength. Okay, so you can see here, and this is interesting. This is interesting to wake up to a weak Australian dollar. Okay, you can see it's very weak, and then it was pulling up for a little while, and now it's starting to turn down, isn't it? Okay, so that would make me think that maybe the Australian dollar is going to have another push lower. Okay, if we have a look here, also on the short term, let me zoom in a little. You can see that, I mean, we're just here. We're below the zero line, as is the Kiwi dollar, and yeah, we're not really moving higher. And you can see here, if we have a look at some 4-hour data, you can see that we were very high. We're showing like enormous strength here. We were very high, but now we're starting to move a little bit lower. And for the session, I mean, we're the weakest currency very clearly. So let's have a look at that. But before we do that, we need to pair it with something, don't we? So let's have a look at something that's strong. We have the Japanese yen. So we'll first of all have a look at the Japanese yen, Australian dollar. So the Aussie yen. So this one should be moving lower for the time being. And you can see that this is moving lower off this area of 4-hour supply. Okay, so we can see that if we look at here, we had sell signals. We're being told that this could probably begin to sell off at around here. What time is that? That's about 4 o'clock this morning. If we have a look here, well, that's quite recently actually. That's just now. So we were told essentially that this is probably going to continue to move low. Okay, so price poked through this area of supply. You can see historically it was here. Price went a little bit deeper, found the sell zone. We started to exhibit these lower lows and lower highs. We had a last push, maybe a stop hunt, an attempt to attract buyers, stop them out, release liquidity into the market, and then we get into that liquidity. which is essentially going to drive this temporarily lower. Okay, so price is wriggling down. We've poked into this small half an hour area of demand. Price poked into it, we went a little bit deeper, and we went a little bit deeper again. So this area is actually gone. You can just see it disappear, as did the ones above price. And so price is wriggling lower. And so our next question is, well, where do we have a buy zone? Because this is essentially where we would look to get out of the position. And so when we're looking for a buy zone, you need to look for turning points in the market. If you look for a turning point, where did price forcefully turn around? You can see that, we forcefully turned around here, obviously, okay? And so we had a lot of people thinking that this was going to continue to move lower, and then it didn't move any lower. Then it turned around and went up, okay? And so we formed this high. So we tested. You can see these wicks revisited a sell zone, which is here, okay? And this sell zone was removed here, and the origin of the demand area that removed this is down here. So this is where we have an interesting reference point. Okay, we do have some smaller reference points here, because when price left here, we managed to move through this. We didn't close above it, but we did close above it from this area here. So this is pointing to the area that we could expect price to have a bounce at. So we're going to mark it off like that. Okay, we go to the smaller time frames. The 4-hour chart, we'll have a closer look, and you can see that. Yeah, well, we have this. There's a lot of stuff here. Let me remove some of these lines for us. Not that one. We want to keep this one. We want to remove this one. Okay, so we have this one here. Price moved higher. We pulled back, and then we left. Okay, and we have. So actually, I'm just going to remove this. I'm going to put a 4-hour area on there because we're on the 4-hour chart. We have this just here. Okay, and so this rectangle was drawn on the chart. 1, 2, 3. When this white candle closed, price pulled back to it, and we left. So the slingshot was pulled back, and then we left. Okay, we have a child and a parent. So we do have a parent-child relationship in here, and you guys all know what that means. Beginning of the buy zone for the child is here. So when price comes down to here, we're probably going to start to see the price have a bit of a trouble moving lower on the smaller time frames. That doesn't mean that price is not going to move deeper, and I'm convinced that price is going to move deeper into here, and very likely this one just down here, because this is essentially where this move originated from. And if we have a look on the smaller time frames, we need to find these very small areas. So if we draw, I'm just going to draw a line here. Take this trend line tool. See, we tested resistance, resistance, resistance. Notice, and then price pulled back to this area here, and this is where price managed to trade above this resistance level. So that is telling us that we have a price-sensitive area just here. So at the 66.50 area, update that. Yeah, 66.45-ish area, which is essentially where this child is. So price is probably going to move down to around this area here. Okay, so that's quite interesting. We go and have a look on the smaller time frames and see if we have any extreme histogram data. Yes, we do. Yes, we had extreme histogram. We had price approaching these highs here. If you look at historical turning points, we had this one. Price approached that historical turning point where here. So this is where price was revisiting these extreme levels. And last time price came back to this area, what happened? What happened last time price came up to this price level here? Well, notice, you can see very clearly, oops, wrong thing, wrong tool. We had really strong pushes higher in price, but what's the histogram doing? The histogram is having marginal or smaller pushes higher. And down here, when we had this last push higher, we're actually starting to move lower on the histogram. So that's telling us that we can expect price to move down from this point here, okay, somewhere in here. And so now we're just revisiting those areas. And what's happening? Let's have a look. We can see that we are, well, we're just seeing a confirmation. We're just seeing these price levels, the strength of the currency kind of run out a little bit for the short to mid-term, rather the short term. This is the hourly chart. So I'm expecting that this is probably going to maybe wriggle down before we start to attract buyers to drive price higher. Okay, this is a really nice area, and you can see price poked into it here. This is one we looked at. Went a little bit deeper. We went a little bit deeper, so we did poke into this 1 hour area of demand. So we have a continuation pattern. We have a parent and the child. We have that just down here. So price may have a poke in there. Alternatively, we could move down into this area here. And this is interesting because when price left here, we managed to move above these highs. You see we had a test, test, test. Price moved above that from the low of the slingshot, which is just here. Just here. And you can see this area has been tested, so price will probably have a bit of a bounce at that area as well. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. Let's go back to currency strength and have another look. We have on the 4 hour we have a very weak pound. So let's have a look at the pound Australian dollar, because this is interesting because we have a really weak Australian dollar. This kind of weakness does not normally last forever. So let's have a look at the pound Australian dollar and maybe look to, let's have a look what the chart is telling us. Pound Aussie. So this is probably looking pretty low. Yeah, let me remove this. So we have a weak pound, a weak Aussie, and so it looks like the Australian dollar is moving lower. The British pound is moving higher, and so we're looking to react to these pretty low levels just here. So first of all, we need to mark off. We need to see where we are relative to the major swings. Okay, we're reacting at this daily demand, this daily buy zone. We tried to take this trade here, but we missed it by less than the spread, which was unfortunate because it really had a nice push away. But now we're having a deeper push into that area. So if we have a look closer, you can see that. Okay, what do we have? We need to find these historical points. We had a very price sensitive area. I think we have to go to the weekly to see this. Let's have a look. Okay, so we had some pretty tough time moving above this level here. Testing, 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 deeper and deeper and deeper. Pancakes disappearing, and finally price moves above that. So you ask yourself, where did price originate from? Price originated from, if you're thinking that this is where price managed to move away from, if you go to the bar, to the close chart, you can see, if you move this line to the closes, you can see we had close. This lines up pretty nicely, and it kind of all originated from this area here. This is where we had the closes above historical closes. Okay, so this is telling us that we have something in here. So you can go to the 4 hour chart, you can have a look, you can drill down, you can see if there's anything inside there that would lead us to believe that price is probably going to push away. You can see push away occurred from here. Slingshot was pulled back, and we moved away. So I'm thinking that this price point here is going to be an interesting one should price return back to it. So if we go to the daily chart, have a look. This looks like a pretty interesting area. We do have this, of course, and we have push above, slingshot, and then release. So anywhere from the lows or this child here on low, I think is a very interesting place to begin to accumulate Australian dollars, British pounds, and get out of Australian dollars for the shorter term. Okay, we'll have to see above price. We need this area to be removed before we look to sell. We do have kind of lower lows and lower highs, but we want to see things turn around. If price was really low, we're getting low. This is going to be 2 times. This is going to be a pretty negative variant. I think we're getting pretty close. I think we could see some shorter term kind of retracements and moves back into opposing sell zones before we see if we can wriggle lower. But for the time being, it's tough to say. But yeah, we looked on the bigger time frame, so we do have a bit of insight as to what price is potentially going to do. We have tested this, we lift. If we have a look here, you can see as well here that we do have prices moving lower, but the histogram not supporting that. So that is telling us that this push lower is kind of an artificial push lower, because the strength of these two currencies relative to one another does not support this moving lower for the time being. And so we can potentially expect price to move higher shorter term. So maybe we'll have a bit of a bounce there. On the small times we can probably see that working its way out. Okay, I had a question come in. This is the Q&A day about how we typically go about looking at trades. So this is in relation to entries and stops and targets, and we do this by identifying historical areas of rather historical buy and sell zones, and we like to look at currency strength as well. So let's look at something completely different. The American dollar, Singaporean dollar. Where are you? Here. Let's have a look at this chart. Okay, so let's have a look here. And so what are you looking for? In a situation like this, you are looking for places where price has historically turned around. Okay, and you can see that, price turned around here. We had a sell zone here. Price went a little bit deeper. We went a little bit deeper. So what's going on there? Why is price doing that? This is because we have supply. We have a keen interest to sell American dollars and buy Singaporean dollars at areas, price levels that we can't see on this time frame. So we'll have to go to the monthly. Let's hope we have data. Yes, we have data. We have an area of supply here. Okay, this is where we have our supply. So now we have, this is very interesting because we can see pretty clearly that the price had a poke into there. We took the first pancake, second pancake, third pancake, so we're up to the plate is almost empty. And now we are potentially going to have another run higher, depending on what's going on. Were price a little bit higher, I would be keen on looking to short at higher levels here. But that's not what we're seeing at the moment. We're not seeing these extreme pushes because, if you look at this, let me update the histogram data, see if I can download a bit more. No, we don't have enough historical data. But you can see that we're getting close to the end of a cycle. I can't see where it started, but let's assume that if we kind of look at it where it was here, right now it's currently here. Use a different tool. It's currently here. We had about this many periods, this many months historically, so I think we can be safe to say that it maybe look like that. So we went up, went down, and then we went up, and now we're kind of moving higher. I'd like to see it push higher before we reach the end of this cycle, this bull cycle for the American dollar, Singaporean dollar. Okay, so if we measure this, you can't always measure these, but let's assume that we have, let's say we have 100 periods. Where does 100 period, where is 50 periods? Well, 50 periods is here. So that's telling us that halfway through the move, which is typically around here, that's about 50. Let's have a look, maybe 50. That's about 50, that's exactly 50. When we reach that, this is where we started to decline. And so this could be the end of the bull cycle for the American dollar, Singaporean dollar. Okay, so we'll have to wait and see. I'm holding a lot of Singaporean dollars, so I'm hoping that, actually I don't really care, but I'm thinking if I was looking to get out of my Singaporean dollars and acquire some American dollars, well, I might be looking to do that once price maybe has another visit of these highs here, because I'm thinking that because of what I can see here, I'd like to see price have another run higher. So if I was looking to get into American dollars, I'd like to see price move up into these areas here, and then I'd be looking to acquire some American dollars. But I'm not seeing that just yet. We could also be seeing the beginning of currency strength divergence. If we look at these highs here, and we compare those to here, maybe we're already starting to move lower. So maybe we're going to have a short-term push lower, higher, and then lower. Okay, and then we're going to begin to re-reference the beginnings of these buy zones. We have one here. We have another one here. That wasn't a very good drawing. We have one here. Okay, so we do have a couple of areas that could be interesting. this area in here might be an interesting reference point. Certainly this one here. Software has found all these nicely for us, and then we kind of have these two if we just box them off together to make things easy. And then you can see the price had a bounce there. You can see price had a bounce here, but we didn't quite get into there. We had another one here. I'm thinking if price gets back to around this area here, we'll probably have a shorter term correction move in before it figured out what to do. So there's certainly trading opportunities down here. Just remember that price is probably going to go deeper. We have this one, price goes a bit deeper, so price will probably go a little bit deeper, and we'll probably maybe move into this area of weekly demand before we figure out what we're going to do. Okay, so just yeah, so it's just interesting, I think, to see on the larger time frames that we are approaching the middle of a bull cycle. Okay, the middle of a bull cycle, and the middle of a bull cycle is, I mean, if you consider a cycle, what is a cycle? Well, a cycle is, we have a zero line, we have an axis, and we have something that moves from negative territory to positive territory. So it looks like that. Okay, so we have plus, and here we have negative. So this is one cycle where we move from negative to positive. So the next cycle will probably look like this, where we move from the positive to the negative. Okay, and we're starting to see that now. So I'm expecting that sometime in the near future, the American dollar, within the next maybe half a year, the American dollar will lose value relative to the Singaporean dollar, and maybe other currencies as well. So that's what I'm looking at there. So in a situation like this, Giovanni, what we like to do is we like to focus on these areas, these price sensitive areas. So assuming that we were looking to sell here, what we would do is that we would note where we were in the cycle based on currency strength, and we would note where the beginning of the sell zone was. Okay, and you can see very clearly that we have a sell zone that is here. And I know this is a sell zone because price turned around from it. Price went up to a price level, then it left. And then I want to ask myself, well, what is price referencing? So I have to look left, and I can see, very good, price is referencing this area of supply. So we actually have this area of supply, which looks like this. Tested once, twice. Okay, and now, where did this one come from? Didn't that just jump in there all of a sudden? That's very peculiar. Come on, broker, you're going to have to work a bit harder. Did that just jump in there all of a sudden? Let's have a look. We change time frames. Man, that's ugly. I don't know what happened there. My broker just did something naughty. Okay, that's like a discrepancy in price. We're not going to pay attention to that because price went up, but price respected this historical area here, and that wasn't there a minute ago. That was weird, wasn't it? Anyway, so we have this area that we're referencing. Price tests it a little bit deeper and a little bit deeper. So typically, we will take an entry at the beginning of the sell zone and we'll mark off the high of the area, which is here. So I'm going to mark off, I'll just do it like this. I'll use this drawing tool here so we have a different color. So I'd mark off from here to the high of the area. I can take 2 times that. So the stop would be about here. Okay, and then we're going to look for a risk reward that is better than that. About 3 times that. So we have, this is the whole, this is my stop, which is here. So we want to look at a multiple of that. So let's mark off first multiple, second multiple, third multiple, fourth, just to really illustrate how this works, then fifth. And we'll stop there because we have demand below. So let's mark off the entry point, which is around there. Not exactly. These tools can be tough to work with. Okay, around there. And so you would ask yourself, well, where do we have a likelihood that price is going to have a bounce? Well, notice here that price went up. We moved through this. We tested, and then we left. So we have a buy zone here, okay, which is just at, we have 1 times. Oh, that wasn't a very good tool. Let's try here. 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, and 5 times. So we have 5 times, and it looks like that we had the beginning of a buy zone at risk reward of 1 to 3. And so the target for this would be down here plus a little bit, so maybe 2.5 times, because price may not reach that. We have the parent here and we have the child, so maybe the price of this will have a bounce at the child, and so it'd be looking to get out of the trade maybe around here or at the base of the candle that left the area, which is essentially right here. So this is where we'd be looking to get out, which is about 2.5 times that. So you'd be risking 1 for the potential of getting 2.5 out of that. So that's how I would look at this. Okay, so my stop would be here, around, sorry, at the highs around here, and my target would be just here. Okay, and the same thing on the smaller time frame. If you look at a smaller time frame, the exact same thing would apply there as well. So if we go to, let's say, the Euro Aussie on the 1 minute chart, just to do something completely different, what do we have here? Well, we have cycles. We want to focus on these cycles. Let's reset this. So we have these cycles. Oh, look at that. I love this software so much. And we have this, we have the cycle. Oh, come on. Malfunction. We have the cycles here. You can see historical here, historical there. We had price reverting to the mean at these price points here. And we had a really nice one here. So we'd want to mark this off, because this is essentially where price is retreating from, and we'd want to zoom out and see, why is price leaving from that area? So we'd move left. We'd say, very good. Well, look at this. Look at this. So we have we have testing, 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 and then release. So we do have a beginning of a sell zone right here. Okay, so we remove this. We go back, and this is what we look at. You can see that we had a price sensitive area at that level. Our stop would be, let me zoom out a little bit. There we are. Okay, so now you can see that we poked into that area, which is actually, that area was marked off nicely for us, and it's just here. Okay, so the beginning of the sell zone is just here, as you can see by the software. So the stop would be, it would be here, and the area that we would look to get out at is here. Find the similar thing. Where do we have an attempt, a deeper attempt, and then a follow through? So we would do this. So this is our supply. The buy zone would be just here. Okay, so price cut through it. The area that moved through it is this one here, and so we could say, okay, let's move this down here. So this is where we have that area that that was responsible for moving through this. And where do we have retracements into that area? We have retracements into that area. We have, this is a bigger one, and then we have some smaller ones here. So I think you could probably move this down to around here. I'll do it around right there. So we do have, assuming you got in here at 68, what's that? 68.13, 68.14, 168.13, and a target would be 167.34, and the stop would be just up here. Okay, so you'd be maybe already about a 1 to 2 risk reward, and maybe just waiting for another push down to get out of the rest of the trade. Yeah, I'd be more comfortable if price was operating at these areas, because this is where price really tends to turn around. Okay, but we'll have to wait and see. But that's how I normally do it. And so the stop for that, as mentioned, the entry would be here. Would be here. The stop would be here. And the target would be here. Okay, and I would feel even more confident if we had this kind of a reading around here. If the histogram was all the way up here, right here, I'd be very comfortable, even more comfortable about this, because then I know that the momentum for this pair is probably worn off temporarily, which would increase the likelihood of this trade working out. Okay, good. We've been rambling now for 35 minutes, so I'm going to stop. But if you have any questions, please put them in, add a comment to the YouTube video, or post them in the Discord channel. Thanks for watching.